Hi, I'm Lance Suzuki. I'm a professional flutist and teacher, and today I'm going to be breaking down Garibaldi's Etude No. 1 in C major and giving you some tips, concepts, and practice techniques to think about as you work on this etude. I'll also be playing through the etude at the end of this video, so if at any time you'd like to fast forward to that section, please check out the timestamps in the description below. This etude is most often seen in Robert Cavalli's Melodious and Progressive Studies for Flute Volume 1, otherwise known as the Blue Book. Today I will be working out of the Blue Book, so please keep in mind that certain markings may differ if you are using a different edition. This etude is in C major, meaning that there are no flats or sharps in the key signature. The C sign next to the treble clef stands for common time, which is the same as 4/4. However, I personally find it much easier to think of this etude in a slow 2, with 2 half notes per measure. This etude is marked Moderato e tranquillo, which means that it should not be played too quickly and should have an overall tranquil or peaceful feeling. It is also marked dolce, meaning sweetly. Looking at the dynamics, most of this etude is marked either piano or pianissimo, with the exception of 2 fortes. For the intermediate flutist, I highly recommend not taking the dynamics too seriously. At this stage in your development, it's much more important to be playing with a sound that is stable, resonant, and free of excess tension than it is to be playing as quietly as possible. Now let's talk articulation. If I were to ask you what the most important part of articulation is, what would you say? Maybe the tongue? Now, while the action of the tongue is very important, it's equally, if not more important, to think about the air that's coming after the tongue. Keep in mind that it's your airstream and not the tongue that are resonating the flute and thus creating sound. Let's use the music of this etude to create a quick exercise where we can focus on our air. So we're just going to take the first measure, including the pickups, and actually only use the first 2 eighth notes of each beat. So it's going to be C, C, E, E, G, G. Now without moving the tongue, we're going to try to use only our air to create 2 separate attacks, sounding something like this. You can continue this exercise in measures 2 through 6 by using the notes B, D, G, and A, C, E. And when you're comfortable with this and think that you can get 2 notes of about equal volume on each pitch, then you're ready to move on and add a very light articulation. As you're working on this mini exercise, think carefully about the proportion between the air and the tongue, and make sure that you're leading with the air as opposed to leading with the tongue. And when you're comfortable with this, you're ready to add all the other notes that we left out. Throughout this etude, keep focusing on the quality and shape of your air, making sure that at all times it's resonating the flute, whether you're playing separated notes, groups of 2, or long chains of notes. Speaking of long chains of notes, here's a practice tip. If it's overwhelming to practice a large group of notes as a whole, simply break it up into pieces. In this case, I'm going to look anywhere in the ascending scale that it breaks and starts over again. Practice each piece individually and then start linking them together. You can work from the beginning to the end, or start from the end of the chain and work backwards. This practice technique can also work for the etude as a whole. Rather than running it a couple times and calling it a day, work to refine smaller sections of the etude or even individual phrases, and then start joining these smaller pieces together. Finally, study the score and look for patterns. Learning how to identify patterns in music can not only make you a stronger musician and sight reader, it can also help your practice to become much more efficient and help you to learn pieces a lot faster. Because who wants to spend 4 weeks on the same etude anyway? Looking at this short excerpt from the etude, does any particular pitch stand out to you? If you answered G, you're correct. But since there are so many Gs, let's actually look at the pitches that are not Gs. E, F, B, C. Start by practicing and familiarizing yourself with those 4 notes. And when you're comfortable, it's time to start adding in Gs. Now, if it's overwhelming to add them all at once, start by just adding one at a time. Let's add another. And another. And so on and so forth. Here's another pattern that you might recognize from the opening of this etude. Now, if you look at the first eighth note of each beat, you might notice that it forms a C major arpeggio. So let's start by slowly practicing just the arpeggio. Now, if you've been diligently practicing your chromatic scales, it shouldn't be that difficult for you to add a half step below each of these chord tones, like this. In this way, we've located a pattern and used it to simplify the structure of the music so that we can start to read in larger chunks rather than just note to note. To summarize the concepts of this etude, first, lead with the quality and shape of your air and not your tongue. Second, break down complicated passages into smaller, more manageable pieces. Third, look for patterns in the music to improve your reading and make your practice more efficient. Before I get to playing this etude for you, if there's anything useful you've learned today from this video, please let me know by giving it a comment and a like below. Also, for more educational flute content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Lance, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please let me know by giving it a like. Also, to see more flute content like this, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching!